I wanted to finally get this to you. The original video I made was too long. I tried to shorten it, but still be creative, and it was still too long. So I'm just going to hit on and elaborate upon some points that are embedded in this document. So the first paragraph of your paper, of course, is your introduction. Longer papers, 15, 20 plus pages in a paper, you're likely to have multiple paragraphs for your intro because your intro lays the groundwork. It provides the reader with a preview of what they can expect in your paper. And so longer papers obviously need a more extended preview. For this paper, you'll likely just need one paragraph. So your introduction should open with a general statement in which you establish the author, the title of the work, and the title of these works should be in quotation marks because they're articles, which are shorter works. Longer works would be italicized, like a novel. And you also want to hit upon the major theme or themes in the work that directly connect to the author's claim. So that's how you open your paragraph. In the middle of the paragraph of your introduction, you want to briefly hit upon key points the author makes, the ones you're going to cover in the paper, in order to support his claim, essentially summarizing the parts of the work that both provide an overview of the piece as well as a preview of the key points you plan to analyze. So it's a summary of sorts, but a very specific summary, a summary that hits on what you're going to be covering. Now, in order to thoroughly cover a piece, the key points should be from various points throughout the text, so you are summarizing the entirety of the text essentially as you preview these key points for the reader. Then you want to end the paragraph with a thesis statement, which is your claim, what you aim to prove in the paper. It is the sentence for which the rest of the paper exists. So, if you can't point to your thesis statement, you should stop, go back to your intro, figure out what it is. If it's missing, put it in, and then write the rest of your paper, because the body paragraphs exist solely to defend and develop the thesis statement. And the conclusion wraps up your argument, which is an argument in favor of the thesis statement. Right, so you're going to end your intro with your thesis statement, and then you're going to, your thesis statement, it should, you're going to clearly state the author's claim, summarizing key points, and ending with your evaluation of the claim put forth by the author. How well did the author do in making his point, supporting his claim with specific key points, evidence, and explanation? So you might say something to the effect of, the author effectively argues that So just inserting that word effectively lets the reader know that your claim is he did a good job. He did a good job. Opening of your first body paragraph, and this is true of all body paragraphs. You're going to open for this paper with a key point that the author makes in order to support his claim. And again, you want to infuse it with an evaluation on your part of how effective you think the claim is in the grand scheme of the paper. For example, if you thought that the author shows how the previous generation labored hard and sacrificed much so that this current generation could thrive and have an easier time, you would want to have a paragraph devoted to that key point. In this case, your first key point might be the author first points to the hard work of the previous generation to set up a contrast in order to support his overall claim that the current generation is unappreciative. Notice how this lead-off sentence, called the topic sentence, includes the key point the author is trying to make, because that's part of our prompt. You're supposed to dissect the author's argument and analyze it for effectiveness. And so to do that, you have to dissect the key points. So it has to include the key point that the author is trying to make, and that the author uses to make his key point, and or why the author is making the key point. And you want to end that with a clear connection back to the author's overall claim. And so, again, to looking at the quoted material, that right there could be a topic sentence. Now, to make it even stronger, you would infuse it with, do you think this was successful or not? So, again, using words like effectively or ineffectively, or words like that that let the reader know what you think of this particular key point, that will set you up well for that body paragraph and for the paper as a whole. In the middle of the paragraph, you would then follow up that topic sentence with a lead-in or with context to set up a quotation from the text that is a clear example which supports what you have identified as the author's first key point. Following the quotation, you would provide an evaluation of the author's first key point that the previous generation labored hard and sacrificed much so that this current generation could thrive and have an easier time. Your evaluation, also called the analysis portion or explanation portion, is perhaps the most important part of the body paragraph, because this is where you inspect the evidence and use it to support your stance. In this case, was the key point successful when considered in the light of the overall argument or aim of the work? And in particular, because you're going to almost assuredly use quotations as your evidence, because you're dissecting the written work, you want to make sure that you are evaluating the author and his success or lack of success as reflected in the quotation, because the quotation, remember, is your evidence. It's your support for whatever you said in that topic sentence. And then you're going to end the paragraph with a clear transition that satisfactorily wraps up this paragraph and gets the reader ready for the following paragraph. Sorry for the typos, I just am seeing them. My apologies. And so rinse and repeat. Each body paragraph should have these components. Now, we will hit upon conclusions when we meet next week, but in brief, your conclusion should restate your thesis using not quite the same words and phrasing that you did for the original, but keeping the essence of it, and should recap the major points that you made, basically highlighting your greatest hits in each body paragraph. And then you want to end with a concluding thought, but the concluding thought should not be an unanswered question. Typically speaking, you don't want to leave the reader with a question. You're there to further the research, to further the understanding. You don't want to include any new information, any new evidence in the conclusion. You want to think of it like a lawyer's closing arguments in a court case. He or she doesn't present new information, new evidence at that point. He or she will instead remind the jury of all the points that they've made, hit upon in the case, and why those points were so effective, and that's it. They don't present new evidence, and nor should you. So that's it for now. I will see you folks this week.